On a night shrouded in festive cheer, an unsuspecting young woman, just 21, stepped out into the darkness, her heart filled with hopes for the new year. But what awaited her was far from joyful. As the clock struck midnight, a sinister presence lurked, watching, waiting. Just a few hundred yards from her home, her promise to call never materialized, plunging her family into a nightmare of unanswered questions and growing dread. When the morning light broke, it revealed a chilling scene that would grip a community and provoke a relentless investigation. In the shadows of Kingston-upon-Hull, a young woman's life would intersect with a man harboring secrets darker than anyone could imagine. Fueled by bloodshed and betrayal, the truth would unravel, a truth that would reveal the harrowing events of that fateful night. Before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. New stories every day. That the night would unfold in a way that no one could have anticipated, a night that would forever alter the lives of many, casting a long shadow over Kingston-upon-Hull. As the festivities of New Year's Eve filled the air, with laughter and celebration echoing through the streets, an undercurrent of foreboding loomed just beneath the surface. The quaint neighborhood, nestled along the banks of the Humber, was one where most residents felt a sense of security, where neighbors exchanged pleasantries and children played freely in the streets. Yet that night, amidst the cheers and toasts, a young woman named Rachel was about to encounter a darkness that would shatter her world and resonate through the community. Rachel, a vibrant 21-year-old, filled with dreams and desires, had left her parents' home that evening with the simple intention of returning before the clock struck midnight. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of fireworks and the promise of a fresh beginning. But as she walked away, her footsteps echoed the last notes of her life, a life that would soon be snuffed out, buried beneath the weight of terrifying secrets. While the city celebrated, Rachel's mother, consumed by love and worry, waited for her daughter's call, a call that would never come. The hours passed, morphing from hope to anxiety, as unanswered calls accumulated like the confetti strewn across the streets. With a growing sense of dread, she began to pace, her heart racing with each tick of the clock. It was in the stillness of that New Year's morning, as the sun broke through the clouds, that the chilling reality would begin to unravel. The investigation that followed was nothing short of relentless. A community gripped by fear and uncertainty, they rallied together, hoping for a glimmer of hope in the darkness that had engulfed them. The police, determined to bring closure, launched an extensive search. Over 100 officers executed door-to-door inquiries, gathering fragments of information from neighbors, who were all too eager to contribute to the investigation of Rachel's mysterious disappearance. Days turned into weeks, and as the investigation unfolded, a name emerged from the shadows: Michael Little. A 23-year-old tenant of a nearby apartment, he soon became a focal point of the inquiry. Described as reclusive and disheveled, Little's home told a story of neglect, a scene marked by dirt and disorder, where the remnants of a life poorly lived lay strewn about. But it was what lay beyond the chaotic interior of his apartment that would send shockwaves through the community. It was a seemingly innocuous storage closet, tucked away from the eyes of the world, where the truth lay hidden, a truth so horrific and unimaginable that it would haunt the hearts of those who sought to understand. When the police finally gained access, a grim discovery awaited them. There, beneath layers of refuse and disregard, lay Rachel's body, carefully concealed but all too evident in its tragic finality. The autopsy reports would later reveal the brutality of her demise. 27 stab wounds marred her delicate body, inflicted with a kitchen knife that bore a 12-inch blade, an instrument of violence that had turned the promise of a new year into a macabre tableau of horror. The details were chilling. Her life had been taken with a ferocity that belied any semblance of self-defense. There were no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds to justify the attack. Only the haunting knowledge that she had been ambushed, betrayed by the very fabric of trust in her own neighborhood. Little's immediate confession to the crime, coupled with a slew of convoluted stories, first claiming self-defense, then shifting blame, would weave a tapestry of deceit that the investigators would have to untangle. Surveillance footage further painted a damning picture of the evening, capturing little moments before Rachel's final journey, a haunting reminder that he had been stalking her path, waiting for a moment to strike. As the layers of this tragic narrative unfolded, it became increasingly clear that Rachel's fate was tragically intertwined with Michael Little's dark, underlying motives. Each revelation dug deeper into the community's psyche as they grappled with the reality that within their midst lay a predator, a man who had chosen to transform a night of joy into a nightmare, forever altering the lives of those who loved Rachel. As Kingston upon Hull struggled to come to terms with this unimaginable horror, it stood as a testament to the fragility of safety, the depth of human darkness, and the relentless pursuit of truth amidst a swirling storm of grief and betrayal. Whirled through a lens of vibrant enthusiasm, a trait that endeared her to friends, family, and acquaintances alike. Her laughter was infectious, often ringing through spaces like a warm melody, instantly filling the air with light. Growing up in a close-knit family in Ireland, Rachel was the cherished youngest child, often doted upon by her older siblings. Memories of family gatherings, laughter echoing through their modest home, and stories shared over shared meals painted a picture of a life rich in love and connection. As she matured, Rachel's adventurous spirit led her to the bustling city of Kingston upon Hull, where she sought independence and new experiences. The city, with its cobbled streets and vibrant cultural scene, was a far cry from her tranquil Irish childhood, yet it offered an exciting canvas upon which she could paint her story. Rachel immersed herself in her new life, working diligently at a local nursery, where she nurtured infants with the same tenderness she had received from her family. Her days were spent organizing playful activities, reading stories, and comforting the little ones, fulfilling her childhood dream of caring for vulnerable lives. Yet, beneath the surface of Rachel's animated exterior lay the pressures and uncertainties of young adulthood. The search for a balance between professional aspirations and personal relationships often left her feeling overwhelmed. In the midst of this struggle, Rachel found solace in the company of friends, particularly Mark, whose presence added a layer of complexity to her life. Their relationship was nuanced, filled with the youthful uncertainties and emotional turbulence that often characterize such bonds. Yet, Rachel thrived on this connection, believing in the innate goodness of people and the thrill of possibility. On that fateful New Year's Eve, Rachel had attended a party to welcome in the new year, shimmering with anticipation and hope. The air was thick with laughter and the clinking of glasses, a jubilant atmosphere that belied the darkness that would soon descend. She texted her mother, Wanda, just before the countdown, filled with enthusiasm about the night ahead, assuring her that she would call upon her return. Little did she know that the simple act of celebration would become a pivotal moment in her life, setting off a chain of events that would unravel not only her world, but also the fabric of her family and community. As hours slipped past after her departure, Wanda's sense of dread began to bloom, a whisper of instinct that something was amiss. Each unresolved ring of the phone echoed louder than the last, amplifying the silence that surrounded Rachel's absence. Wanda's mind raced through a labyrinth of possibilities, desperately trying to cling to hope while battling an encroaching sense of despair. The clock continued its relentless march forward, and with each passing minute, that sense of dread morphed into a chilling certainty. The heart-wrenching knowledge that her daughter could be ensnared in a situation far beyond her control settled in. The realization that the joyous celebrations of the night before had morphed into an ominous reality. Once morning broke, and the world outside began to awaken, Wanda's heart pounded with trepidation. The familiar rhythm of her life was shattered. She was a mother thrust into an abyss of uncertainty. The call from Vander offered a fleeting moment of relief, yet the void left by Rachel's absence loomed larger than life, unfathomable, suffocating. Wanda's instinctual love and protection surged, urging her to seek any sign of her child, to reclaim her from the shadows that threatened to engulf her. The drive to Rachel's apartment felt unending, each moment fraught with the weight of unspoken fears. Mark's assurances, though meant to calm, only fueled Wanda's growing anxiety. Was Rachel truly safe? The apartment, a space that should have been a sanctuary, greeted them with an eerie stillness, a haunting reminder of what was missing. The untouched kittens mewed softly, completely unaware of the turmoil unfolding around them. Wanda's heart sank. This was not the Rachel she knew, the spirited daughter who would never leave her furry companions unattended. What was meant to be a celebration of new beginnings had spiraled into a nightmare, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the lurking dangers that often go unnoticed. As Wanda and her family stood in that silent apartment, they were enveloped by a profound sense of loss, each heartbeat echoing their desperate search for answers in the face of an unknown evil. The depth of their love for Rachel would soon propel them into an unrelenting quest for the truth, igniting a chain of events that would ripple through their lives and the community, challenging the very essence of safety and trust in the world around them. The once vibrant tapestry of Rachel's life was now entwined with darkness, forever altering the landscape of her family's existence. The search for Rachel Moran marked a profound turning point not only in her family's life, but also within the broader community, a transformation that came to define the year that followed her disappearance. As the investigation unfolded, the stark reality of her vanishing became increasingly palpable, and the once joyous atmosphere of her family celebrations was replaced by an all-consuming anxiety. In the days that followed her disappearance, the initial hope that Rachel might return home safely began to give way to a deeper, darker dread. With no signs of her whereabouts and the absence of any communication, the specter of foul play emerged as a grim possibility. The investigation, initially fueled by optimism, quickly transitioned into a hunt for clues that would lead to the truth. Detectives, grappling with the unsettling notion that Rachel may have encountered a stranger, combed through every detail of her last known movements. Surveillance footage became their most significant ally, a silent witness capturing Rachel as she walked past Jackson's on Hall Road, a seemingly innocuous detail transformed into a pivotal piece of evidence. This moment, immortalized in pixels, opened up a new chapter in their search, providing a clearer direction to focus their efforts. As the clock ticked on, the deployment of resources illustrated the escalating urgency of the situation. The sight of police helicopters slicing through the sky, K-9 units sniffing through the underbrush, and mounted officers combing the streets painted a stark picture of the community's response. This was not merely a missing persons report. It was a collective rallying cry, an assertion that the circumstances surrounding Rachel's disappearance were profoundly troubling. The emotional toll on her family was immeasurable as they anxiously awaited news. Each day without answers was a day steeped in loss, an echo of the vibrant life that Rachel had once led. The media coverage amplified their ordeal and thrust Rachel's story into the public consciousness, transforming her from a beloved daughter into a symbol of vulnerability. The family's desperate appeals for information, underscored by their palpable grief, resonated with a community now grappling with fear. The heartfelt pleas for help served as a reminder that behind the statistics of missing persons, there existed real lives irrevocably altered by tragedy. Rachel, with her youthful spirit and bright smile, became a face of hope amid a darkening narrative. January 11th, 2003, marked a pivotal day in the investigation, one that would shift the trajectory of the search. As divers sifted through the murky waters of the bomb-stunned Drainer Canal, the discovery of Rachel's Nike sneaker ignited a flicker of hope. It was an unmistakable connection to the young woman who had vanished, a tangible reminder that the search was not in vain. But this breakthrough was tinged with anxiety as the implications of the find began to settle in. The sneaker was not merely an object. It was a harbinger of deeper, more unsettling truths lurking beneath the surface of the water. as Diverse carefully navigated through debris and refuse. What they unearthed next would send shockwaves through the investigation. The retrieval of a woman's handbag, complete with Rachel's belongings, transformed the search from a missing persons case into a potential homicide investigation. The deliberate disposal of these items indicated a sinister intent, suggesting that Rachel's disappearance was not accidental. The discovery of the Irish passport within the bag was an especially grim confirmation of the investigators' worst fears. It was a defining moment, illuminating the darkness that had enveloped Rachel's life and heralding the grim reality that confronted her family. This was no longer just a case of a missing person, but a deepening mystery steeped in crime. As investigators reconstructed Rachel's last known movements, the hope for clarity bore a bittersweet burden. The use of a female officer to mimic Rachel's appearance was an innovative yet haunting strategy, a desperate attempt to jog the memories of those who may have witnessed her that night. For every fleeting, blurry recollection brought to light amidst the haze of New Year's Eve celebrations, there remained the stark reality that time was slipping away. With each passing hour, the chances of finding Rachel alive dwindled, while the shadows of fear and uncertainty grew ever more daunting. The search for Rachel had evolved into a relentless pursuit of truth, a quest fraught with emotional and physical challenges. It was a testament to the human spirit, a manifestation of love and tenacity in the face of overwhelming despair. The inquiry unfurled like a dark tapestry woven from loss, hope, and a community's unyielding desire for answers. Each development tugged tightly at the threads of Rachel's story, binding her family and friends together in their shared grief, their collective resolve to unearth the truth echoing throughout the very fabric of their lives. The revelation that Michael Little, a seemingly ordinary individual, was intertwined in the tragic fate of Rachel cast a long shadow over the investigation. With each fragment of evidence pieced together, the reality of that New Year's Eve began to crystallize, transforming what was once a night of celebration into a chilling narrative of predation and violence. It was a transformation that would leave its indelible mark on the community, forcing it to confront the specters that lurked behind familiar faces. As the investigation delved deeper, the true nature of Michael's actions became increasingly stark. The account of that fateful night painted a grim portrait of a young woman who, seeking the simple joys of companionship and celebration, instead found herself ensnared in a deadly encounter. Michael's admission that Rachel had come to his home for a drink suggested an escalation from a benign interaction to one fraught with tension and hostility. What began as a mundane evening spiraled into chaos, culminating in a desperate act of violence that would resonate across lives and echo within the hearts of those who loved her. The chilling detail that Michael had followed Rachel, timing his movements with hers, introduced a macabre layer to the narrative. The juxtaposition of shared celebration and imminent danger underscored the vulnerability women face in everyday situations. It forced the community to reckon with unsettling truths about safety and the often invisible threats that accompany seemingly innocuous encounters. The CCTV footage revealed not just a man, but an embodiment of fear, a reminder that danger can lurk in the most familiar of places, often concealed behind a facade of normalcy. Rachel's family, having endured the agonizing uncertainty of her disappearance, now faced the harrowing reality of her murder. While there was a grim relief in knowing what had happened to their beloved daughter, the pain of losing her was accentuated by the brutality of her final moments. The post-mortem findings, revealing the raw facts of her death, unleashed a torrent of grief. It was a visceral reminder that Rachel was not merely a statistic. She was a vibrant individual with dreams and hopes that had been extinguished. Her life's narrative, abruptly severed, transformed her family's existence into a testament of loss. The community's response to Rachel's death served as a poignant reflection on collective grief and determination. Candlelight vigils emerged as symbols of solidarity, where friends, family, and strangers gathered to honor her memory. Each flickering flame bore witness to the shared sorrow, as the community grappled with the implications of her murder. It ignited conversations about women's safety, the culture of victim blaming, and the urgent need for systemic change. The tragedy became a rallying point, prompting discussions in schools, workplaces, and town halls about respect, consent, and personal safety. Moreover, the profound impact of the case rippled through the legal system, instigating scrutiny into how such incidents are investigated and prosecuted. Questions arose about the efficacy of police responses to domestic violence, stalking, and harassment. Advocates began calling for reforms, emphasizing the necessity of prioritizing victims' voices and experiences. As the inquiry into Rachel's murder unfolded, it became clear that the ramifications extended far beyond the courtroom. They catalyzed a movement for change, demanding accountability and awareness in a society that had often turned a blind eye to the subtler shades of violence. In the wake of Rachel's tragic end, a narrative of resilience began to take shape. Her story transformed into a call to action, urging communities to confront uncomfortable truths about safety and protection. Conversations previously relegated to hushed tones became public discourses, challenging societal norms that had long permitted silence around issues of violence against women. The tragedy of one young woman resonated deeply, igniting a fire within many to advocate for change, ensuring that Rachel's story would not be just another statistic, but a catalyst for transformation. As Michael Little's ominous confession continued to unfold, the community stood at a crossroads, caught between mourning Rachel and rallying for a future where such tragedies could be prevented. The loss was profound, yet in the face of darkness, the resolve of the community shone through, illuminating a path toward healing, understanding, and ultimately, change. The echoes of that night would linger, but rather than breeding despair, they became a foundation for hope, a promise to honor Rachel's memory by forging a safer world for everyone. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the collective spirit ignited by Rachel's story promised to illuminate the way forward. The verdict, a heavy air of anticipation enveloped Hull Crown Court. The jury had deliberated for 9 hours, an eternity for those who had followed the case closely. Each moment felt laden with the weight of Rachel's story, the hopes of her family, the fears of the community, and the haunting echoes of loss. It was a collective breath held in time, waiting for justice to unfold. On that decisive day, as the jurors filed into the courtroom, silence fell like a shroud. The judge took his seat, and the tension was palpable. Michael Little sat at the defendant's table, a figure both pitiful and sinister, cloaked in the shadows of his own actions. As the foreman stood to deliver the verdict, the courtroom held its breath. Guilty of murder. The words rang through the room, striking like a bell, tolling for both the end of a life and the beginning of a reckoning. Relief washed over Rachel's family. They had weathered the storm of grief, and now they could finally take a step towards closure. In the aftermath of the verdict, Rachel's family emerged not only as bereaved loved ones, but as fierce advocates for change. They became the embodiment of resilience, channeling their pain into a mission to prevent further tragedies. Using their experience to educate others on the dangers of domestic violence and the early signs of abusive relationships, they gave voice to those who had been silenced by fear and shame. Their tenacity ignited discussions that transcended their immediate community, reaching into schools, community centers, and parliaments. Rachel's story became a rallying cry, a poignant reminder of the lives destroyed by violence and the urgency to create systems that protect the vulnerable. The impact of the case rippled far beyond the courtroom. It served as a stark reminder to law enforcement and the justice system about the importance of addressing domestic violence with the seriousness it deserved. Police procedures were reevaluated. Training for officers handling such sensitive cases was improved, with a focus on understanding the psychological dynamics at play in abusive relationships. The case prompted a broader movement, one that advocated for legislative changes aimed at protecting victims and holding perpetrators accountable. The dialogue surrounding violence against women gained momentum, pushing society to confront uncomfortable truths and dismantle the silence that so often shrouded such matters. In schools, Rachel's story was integrated into programs designed to educate young people about healthy relationships, a crucial step in breaking the cycle of violence. Workshops addressing consent, respect, and empathy became part of the curriculum, instilling a culture of care and understanding among the youth. The collective grief transformed into a powerful force for education and advocacy. Rachel's legacy became intertwined with a vision for a future where no family would endure the heartbreak that plagued hers. As the case closed, the community of Hull found itself at a crossroads. The initial shock and sorrow began to give way to action. Support networks for victims of domestic abuse were strengthened. Local organizations collaborated to provide resources and safe spaces for those in need. New initiatives were launched to ensure that individuals escaping abusive situations had access to legal support, counseling, and housing. The community rallied around these efforts, fostering an environment where survivors could reclaim their narratives and heal. However, the impact of Rachel's story was not limited to Hull alone. It resonated across borders, sparking conversations in cities and towns worldwide. Social media campaigns emerged, utilizing Rachel's name as a symbol of resistance against gender-based violence. Survivors from various backgrounds shared their experiences, creating an online tapestry of solidarity and support. The once quiet whispers of domestic abuse transformed into a global outcry for justice and reform. Years later, Rachel's story remains woven into the fabric of a community forever changed. Her memory is honored not just in quiet reflection, but through activism and change-making initiatives that embody her spirit. Statues, murals, and memorial gardens serve as reminders of a life lost too soon and the promise of a future that does not accept violence as a norm. Rachel's legacy is one of hope and transformation, a testament to the power of community rising from devastation, and the enduring belief that together we can forge a world where safety and respect prevail. In the end, Rachel's story is not just a tale of tragedy, but a beacon guiding us toward a better tomorrow. In a gripping courtroom drama, the truth of Rachel Moran's tragic death was laid bare, revealing layers of deception and desperation. As Michael Little's contradictory statements unraveled, the prosecution meticulously pointed to the overwhelming evidence against him. This trial was not merely about seeking justice for Rachel. It was a profound exploration of humanity's darker impulses and the need for accountability. As the jury grappled with their decision, the weight of grief, anger, and hope hung in the air, underscoring a community's collective yearning for closure and enlightenment. Rachel's story resonates as a call to action and vigilance against violence, reminding us that every life lost sparks a relentless quest for truth. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone. Comment your city and your local time. Say hello to the people in the comments. I would love to know where and when you're hearing this. And if you have a story you want me to cover, let me know. Subscribe for more. I will see you in the next one.